You know, I really, really don't even know what to say anymore. This sport continues to cannibalize itself, right? This is why I always say, and obviously should be common knowledge at this point, competition is a good thing. Everyone cries and complains about something new, right? They're going to champion the old ways. And what have the old ways got us? Forced us to pay more of our own hard earned dollars to watch the sport we all grew up watching and loving, and also forced us to have to get fights that we're not really interested in. And we don't get the fights that we want. Now we get the fights we want once in a while, but we should be getting them far, far, far more often than we do. And we shouldn't have to wait for them. And we should be able to see our favorite boxers or the boxers in general, the great fighters, we should be able to see them and have access to them without having to empty out our bank accounts and spend crazy amounts of money that we normally didn't have to do before. And now what used to be regular run of the mill fights, you have broadcasters like BBC or Amazon Prime is the broadcast. But you have broadcasters and you have companies like PBC and you got broadcasters like DAZN telling us that these regular fights are all of a sudden now pay per view, right? So let's take a look at this really stupid move, in my opinion, that the zone has just done. And again, this is why competition's good because now American boxing is in the toilet right now, right? Top Rank doesn't have a deal. BBC really doesn't have a deal. I mean, they put on 6 shows this year, and 4 of them were pay per view. So basically, it's almost like they just have a Amazon is just a pay per view distributor for them, right? They don't have a real schedule. They haven't had a schedule, a scheduled fight since July. So you got August, September, October, November, December. You got 5 months without a fight scheduled. And now that supposedly the David Benavidez, who was a PBC fighter, is going to be fighting on a ring TV card or a ring card in Saudi Arabia on the Zone pay per view, right? So this is the opening. The Zone thinks thinks they had here because they see that PBC doesn't have a schedule. They see Top Rank doesn't have a distribution deal. So this is where they feel as though they could just swoop in and what they think is a bargain really is not a bargain when you think about it, right? So let's take a look here. So the zone normally regularly charges $20 to $30 a month, and now with this ultimate plan, they're going to be charging $45 a month. This is basically price gouging, right? Paramount Plus, they already offer regular streaming, so they have their catalog of movies, shows, right? Tulsa King's a great show. I've been watching that. If you buy the premium version, right, it's $13 a month. And then you're going to be getting Showtime with it. UFC events are going to be with it because UFC just signed that huge deal. And you're also going to be getting TKO boxing. So look what you're getting for $13 a month. And look, they're actually adding content while the zone really is giving you the same content, but they're packaging some of these events as pay-per-views, but they're not really pay-per-views, right? They're not really pay-per-views. So you're getting raked over the coals here. And let's take a look at what PBC's done. Because again, they basically have a distribution, a pay-per-view distribution deal, really, it seems like, because of the schedule with Amazon. So if you were to just get Prime Video by itself, it would cost you $107 a year. If you were to get ad-free Prime Video, that's $143 a year. And if you have just an Amazon Prime membership like I do, you're going to get the Prime Video with the ads, and obviously you have your Amazon Prime membership. So if you add all those pay-per-views, because there was 4 pay-per-views this year, $320 of pay-per-views. So if you were to add that to a standard Prime Video package, that's 427. Prime Video without ads, that's 463. Full, if you use your full Amazon Prime membership, like I have and like most people have, a lot of people have, that's 459. So you're spending 427 to 459 a year to watch boxing, right? And now the zone's asking you what? To spend like, I believe, 540 a year for boxing. Oh, we're going to give you the pay-per-views for free. But are these fights really pay-per-view fights? Should Americans have to pay pay-per-view prices to see Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr., Fabio Wardley versus Joseph Parker, right? Dillian White versus Moses Atamu. Those are not pay-per-view fights, but they're telling you that they are. So again, people are crying and worrying about competition coming into the sport. They don't want to change the sport. You really want to keep the sport the way it is with these 19 belts per division, all these pay-per-views, right? You're going to be, if you were to just watch Paramount Plus and spend that money, look at the difference in pricing. And they have 75 million subscribers. DAZN only has, I think, globally 20 million subscribers, and they practically have very little subscribers in the U.S. So I don't know how this is all going to work out, because I'm already hearing a lot of people saying they're going to cancel their subscription. Now, I'm sure some people will buy some of these pay-per-views, but a lot of people have already said that I know going to start streaming everything now. So they just did the greatest advertisement right now for Fire Sticks. So I just think that this was a horrible move for DAZN. I think the better strategy would have been to not make these fights pay-per-views. Now, if you wanted to do Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank, put that on pay-per-view in the UK, that's fine. But American subscribers should not have to pay a pay-per-view price for that fight. They shouldn't. Shouldn't have to pay a pay-per-view price for Fabio Wardley versus Joseph Parker, Moses Atamu versus Dillian White. So the right thing to do would have been, like Turki Al-Sheikh said, we're not going to do pay-per-views for these Riyadh season or these ring cards. But he went back on his word. So once again, this is just a little bit of a shell game here, what they're doing. The old trick of telling you you're getting, having you pay more, but you're really getting less. This is a little bit of a sleight of the hand here. Oh, we're going to give you 12 pay-per-view. Yeah, 12 pay-per-views, according to you, according to your standards. These are not pay-per-view fights, right? These are not pay-per-view fights. And let's take a look. Let's just use, look at PBC. Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios. Is that really a pay-per-view fight? Caleb Plant versus Armando Resendez and Jamal Chala versus Thomas LaManna. Was that a pay-per-view fight? Tim Tszyu, Joey Spencer, that was free. Sebastian Fondora versus Chordal Booker. Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach. Is that a pay-per-view fight? David Benavidez versus David Morrell. Was that a pay-per-view fight? I mean, come on, guys. Look at the quality. Everyone's talking about, so what kind of fights is TKO going to get? Look at the fights you're already getting. Yeah, you got Canelo Crawford. Sure, that was great. But what else did you get this year? Look at this. Look at this. Look at the fights you're getting. So again, boxing continues to cannibalize itself, continues to shoot itself in the foot. And if you guys are happy with the way things are going and you don't want changes, you don't want to see a different way, you're happy paying more and getting less, you like the status quo. And it's funny too, because all these journalists, all of a sudden they're quiet now. They're quiet about the Tank Davis incident. No one's really, you're hearing people, basically a lot of these journalists, they're probably getting complimentary subscriptions. That's why they're out there all happy. You're seeing people tweeting, "Oh, look at how great this is." Yeah, yeah, this is really great. You got to pay $540 to watch boxing. And again, how many times do you guys actually turn on your DAZN app? Once a month. So you're paying $45 to access something once a month on average. Sometimes they don't even have a fight on. They don't even have a regular scheduled fight on. So what are you going to do? You're going to watch Misfits boxing? What's going on, brother? Can you hear me? How's your mic? Yeah, your mic's not on. Can't hear you. You got to get your mic sorted out. You see?
How's that, Beeb?
Yeah, I can hear you. Perfect.
Okay, great. I just wanted to jump on as a second voice and maybe contribute something to the topic. The truth is, when it comes to this DAZN thing, I'm just starting to hear about the greater details and the bigger story here. But of course, like any fan, I've got opinions on all this stuff. I mean, I feel like the last 5 years. Well, I mean, how long's DAZN been around now, Beeb?
Since 2018, about 7 years now.
Yeah, okay. So we could say that since DAZN came on the scene, this whole thing's been building and changing and developing, and I feel like we're somehow no further or closer to anything that looks, like something that's we could settle into and move forward with. Especially from a fan's point of view, all the stuff that they come up with, 80 to 90% of it is kind of benefiting and favoring the companies, the promoters, the networks, and the fans not necessarily lose, but sometimes we lose, whether it's weird hours, having to stay up half the night, whether it's paying crazy amounts of money for fights that we shouldn't have to pay. Um, last week I was pretty excited about the Tubi Roku announcement from Top Rank. I mean, I
Yeah.
thought if nothing else, it was a good like bridge, to maybe something more permanent down the road. And because everyone's got those channels or access to them for the most part. But in Canada, we found out the night of the fight, like it was time to tune in. In Canada, none of us could get any of those channels. So they gave us, of course, in haste, because everyone was going online to complain, and so they were replying to give us the Sit Punching Grace website, and we had to go on there, and you had to log. Like, just became this whole thing. And I mean, for hardcore fans, I guess that's okay, but no one's doing that. No one's doing all that stuff to watch a Meyer fight. Like, I hate to say it, but that's the truth. I don't know how it went in the States, but the point is man, first of all, the biggest thing I would love to see all these guys do is work towards something that is a shared or a more like that benefits a one place. And DAZN looked like it might be that place, and it's looked like that through the years at different junctures. But like here we are, still no closer to having everyone in one spot. And now DAZN with this move, which is supposed to benefit us, I guess. I don't know, Beeb. Like, what do you think? Do you see any solution to this from your point of view as a fan and a pundit? Like, what do you see? What would be ideal in your mind?
Well, once, and again, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here because I've always said there's no such thing as overpaying a fighter, right? Because the deal someone takes is the deal they make, and I don't begrudge anyone for wanting to make the most amount of money possible. But what happened is And it started, I think, with PBCs. Once you start inflating purses, right, and you're incentivizing guys to fight easier fights, lesser fights, fights that aren't as big. Once they get used to making a certain amount of money, then it's going to be hard to get them to fight tougher competition. If a guy like Boots Ennis can get $1 million, $2 million, $3 million to fight a guy like Lima, what incentive does he have to go and fight somebody like a Virgil Ortiz? He's going to need 10, 15, $20 million. And the question is, can that fight generate the revenue to justify the purse? Just like Dana White said, and a lot of people don't like this, but it's like a going out of business seal because everyone wants to talk about fighter pay, fighter pay, fighter pay. And I'm not going to sit here and cry over someone who's getting $1 million, $2 million, even a half 500,000. You fight, if you're gonna have $500,000 and you're fighting 2-3 times a year, that's a good salary, right? How many people make that? You're still in the 1%. So again, I have no problem with these guys making the most amount of money they can make, but not at my expense. I mean, if you're going to price, in order for you to have to make an exorbitant amount of money, you're going to have to price gouge me and other fans. I'm sorry, no. I keep hearing people say, "Oh, what would you do if you were Tank Davis?" Well, what would Tank Davis do if he was me? If he was being fed that type of fight, how would he feel about that as a fan? I'm never going to be Tank Davis. I'm never going to be in that position. So I'm not going to. I can't think that way, right? Even if I did think that way, even if I did do those, it doesn't matter because we've seen other fighters like Terrence Crawford fight the best and still make a lot of money. Alexander Usyk fought the best and still made a lot of money. Tyson Fury fought Usyk twice. Anthony Joshua fought Usyk twice. So we see the formula isn't always let's rob the bank like Floyd Mayweather. You can still be in great fights like that Netflix show was a win-win for everybody. The undercard was pretty solid too, but you had everything. You had the best fighting the best, right? And no one had to really pay anything out of their pocket. It was on Netflix. Most people have a Netflix subscription. So there are situations where the best can fight the best. They can make a lot of money, and the fans don't have to freaking go dig deep in their pockets to pay stupid amounts of money for fights, which they normally didn't have to do before. So if you're going to sit there and label everything a pay-per-view, then okay. So maybe this TKO model, right, can be a breath of fresh air because again, only the 1% of these guys are making money. You know, like no disrespect to Lima, but he got the call. How much did he make for that fight? And based off of that, is he ever going to get called again? So again, you got guys who are sitting there waiting by the phone, who are per diem part-time fighters, who are there to fill up the undercards, who are there to be the B-sides, right? So those types of guys are going to have a home over in TKO. So I don't care about the 1%. The 1% are going to be fine. They're going to be fine. I'm not going to sit here and cry about a guy who's making $5 million who needs to make $10 million. That's not my problem. Okay? My job as a fan is to try to get the most value for my dollar, right? I'm paying for the entertainment. And if I got to constantly hear people say, I don't care what the fans think, I don't care what the fans want, I could do whatever I want, then why the fuck should I support you? Why the fuck should I cry about some fucking Ali act that has never been fucking adjudicated and never been had a federal district court judgment ever rendered? And if you don't have enough money to take a promoter to court, how are you going to fucking fight a promoter anyway? So again, this only helps the 1%. I'm tired of worrying about 1%ers. I'm not a 1%er. So why am I
Hey,
going to worry
Beeb,
about other 1%ers?
I just want to first I want to say you made so much great points. I'm willing to go forward with Dana White or any alternate different ideas, plan, company, and as much as it may not work, it may be this, it may be that. I feel like at this point we should at least give it a chance and see it through and see what the product actually looks like. Because at this point, why the hell not? Look at the New York City ring event. that was probably the biggest wet fart as far as talking about what you're talking about. We've got all these brand name big time fighters that are going to get paid crazy. Like you probably had what 10 fighters that night, 8 fighters that were going to get paid, the 8 of them, more than probably thousands of fighters will collectively make in their entire careers. Like the math, there's probably a lot of fun ways you could do the math, like that 1% you're talking about, Beeb. It's a real thing, and it is kind of gross to worry about a small tiny amount of fighters and what they're making versus everything else at stake with the sport, with fans, being able to view the fights, making good fights. To me, as a fan, the mid-size card is what's at risk, and it is going to get lost here. I'm worried about that type of card. Beeb, you know what I'm talking about? Not
I
pay
said
per
this.
view.
I said this before, right? That everyone's sitting there saying, "Okay, well, TKO is not going to be able to get the stars. So why are these other promoters all nervous? Why are they upset? Because think about it. They need undercard fighters. And if all of the undercard fighters that are sitting by the phone decide, hey, I can go to TKO. I can get a guaranteed schedule here. I can get guaranteed pay here. I don't have to sit here and negotiate for a purse. If I'm going to get guaranteed a specific purse, I'm going to get health insurance. I'm going to get taken care of here. Why am I gonna go with these guys where they only call me? I'm a part-time per diem fighter when I'm just doing it the sanctioning body way. Why can't I be part of a league? When I'm part of a league, I'm guaranteed a schedule. I'm guaranteed events, and I'm not. And also, I'm guaranteed that I'm going to be broadcast on a platform, so people are actually going to see me. I'm not going to get swept on in obscurity on some on maybe if I'm lucky I'll be on YouTube on the prelims or something, but not with this. What's going on Bias Brim?
Good morning. How
How
you
you
doing,
doing?
Joe?
Good, man.
This whole pay-per-view situation, I'm kind of caught in the middle because if you think about what Turk first said, you say he said nominal 9.99 fee. Remember that?
Yeah,
If you do the math, and I kind of crunch the numbers. I pay $20 a month, right?
yeah,
If I pay for everything up front, you know, because my stuff in at the end of this month actually. So
yeah.
if I just paid everything up front, that's $450, right?
No, it's $540 because you're going to pay
No,
for 12 months.
if I pay for it up front,
Oh, are
it's
they
an
going to? Are they going to?
$89 discount. Like if I just
Oh,
pay
they're going
for
to
it
give
the
you.
whole
They're going to give
year,
you a discount then for 450. Okay,
I did the math off of that,
all right,
and it's basically like $19 more per month.
okay,
So that's $10 more per month than what Turkey said it would be.
okay,
So I don't have a gigantic beef, but I
okay.
do have a beef.
Well, let me just ask you this, because you have. I mean, this is my opinion. You could agree or disagree with this. What they deem as a pay per view, is it really? How many fights that were put on pay per view this year that did we say weren't pay per view fights? So you're
Mm.
you're being not. I'm not saying you are, but a lot of people, if they buy into this, they're going to be tricked into thinking I'm getting pay per view quality fights when you're not. Just because someone says it's a pay per view quality fight, is it really a pay per view quality fight? So that's what you have to ask yourself when you put
That's
up
the
the
other
money.
side of the coin that I did ask myself
That's
because what determines those 12 pay-per-views? And
You
then
don't
you
even know what
said
you're
back,
getting. You don't even know
yeah,
what you're
and then
getting.
the value for that actual money. So if you do the numbers and you break it down, it's literally what amount that I'm paying extra. If I pay for it again, that's with the $89 discount. That's 3 pay-per-views. So if I'm not getting at least 4 to 5 good quality pay-per-views out of this, I'm not getting real value. And then even with 5 pay-per-views, it's not really phenomenal value. Okay, I get 2 pay-per-views I didn't have to come out my pocket for. But other than that, it's just not enough value behind it. And what's going to determine the pay-per-view, because if you look at what we've been getting, because since they said no more pay-per-views, it's gotten worse.
Yeah,
The pay-per-views actually get worse. So I don't know if there's going to be 12 quality pay-per-views in the course of a year to create a value from it. And that's one of the issues that I was about. You covered the other side of the coin before I could even go to it, and that's
Yeah.
why. And then
Yeah.
if that's you paying for it all up front. So let's say you do the monthly. Now it's even worse. It's $20 more, $25 more per month for a lot of people. It just ain't matching what the words is.
So basically, say you kept your 225 membership, right? And you decided I only want to pay I only say the 12 pay-per-views that are out there, you only want to buy 5 of them. Cuz really, let's look at all the pay-per-views that we had this year. The biggest and best fight of the year wasn't even pay-per-view. It was on Netflix.
Facts.
So let's look at what name another fight that was pay-per-view worthy this year other than that, right?
Whew.
I
Kind of
can't.
difficult.
I can't.
It,
I can't. You really didn't get a pay-per-view. You didn't get a pay-per-view fight this year. You
Wait, hold
didn't.
on. Let's go through it. Let's say, I mean, because if we go
No,
by the
no.
total cards, though, maybe the
All right.
top card.
I'm
Like,
open. I'm open to be convinced here. I'm willing to be convinced. Go
let's
ahead.
let's see if we can convince ourselves. So
Yeah.
we start from the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
What fights have we? What cards were pay per view worthy?
Well, Caleb Plant versus Resendez was definitely not pay-per-view worthy.
That wasn't pay per view though, was it? That was the
It
one free.
was. That was pay-per-view. Yeah.
Was I thought that was on a free card.
No,
They
because
did. They do one free card.
no, they did 2 free cards. It was the Joey Spencer Tim Zoo was a free one, and
That don't even count because I.
yeah, and then there was Fondora versus Booker. They did 6 cards
Yeah,
this year.
Fundora versus Booker. You're
They
right.
did six
Yeah.
cards this year, and 4 of them were pay per view, and none of them. I don't even think Pacquiao versus Barrios was pay per view quality.
You don't think? I know it wasn't pay
Yeah.
per view worthy.
So
Forget think.
all those 4 pay per view fights would have been regular HBO or Showtime cards back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, think about it. I remember being in the barbershop one day, and I was watching Iran Barkley versus Roberto Duran.
Yeah, that's when it
I'm
was on
sitting there.
ABC,
I
ESPN.
watched that on. I think it was on ABC Sports. I'm sitting there in the chair waiting to get my hair cut with the old timers, and we're watching that. That would be a pay per view today.
That's a fact.
You
And I'm thinking just the
imagine?
zone because
Let's
think
look at the
about it.
zone. Let's be fair and look at the zone.
Eubanks and Ben was a great fight, right? And afterwards, right?
Yep.
But going into it with the undercard, would you consider that pay per view worthy? No. In
No,
the UK, yes. Us,
that's a
no.
UK. That's a UK pay per view. That is not a United States pay per view.
Guys, can I just say that
Sure.
I try and stay in the modern and in the now, and I try and look to the future, and I
Yep.
try and stay current. I try
Yep.
not to be overly nostalgia, but
Yep.
let's be honest. There's a whole generation, excuse me, of fans that are young and they weren't there when boxing was on cable. When boxing was like a lot of other sports that we see now, you paid for your cable and you could sit down and just watch your game, and you didn't really have to think too hard about anything, like, oh,
Mm.
there's a fight, I'm going to watch the fight. And then pay-per-view came around, and that started a thing, but for a long time it was like that, and now it's this huge challenge and very complicated topic for a fan to try and get their head around. Like, I'm imagining most casuals, it would push them away from the sport. Even it's like a headache trying to think of this stuff. And so all I'm saying, guys, is you've got that combined with this new narrative through social media that we should concern ourselves. We judge fighters based on how much money they make. We judge fighters based on the purse. We judge fighters based on all these metrics now. Young people, newer fans, I don't know how they can really negotiate the sport as a fan with this new way. Like, imagine if a new kid coming to the sport through social media, 15 to 20 years old, imagine what your impression of the sport is by looking at comments and looking at what's on the social media without having any real background to guys, it's like it's not helping. It's making it's murkying the waters further because they don't even know what's possible. They don't even know what we could achieve. And so it's making it more of a mess. And like back to what I was asking Beeb And you two, Brim, like I'm just want you guys' opinion. I want to hear what you guys think. Like, and the answer could be you don't know, but where are we trying to arrive? Like, what will the system look like potentially? Like, what is it we even want as fans at this point?
Well,
Because I can't even say I know what I would like it to look like at the end. Like,
if you remember back in the day, HBO, like when Andre Ward wanted, I think he wanted to fight somebody. HBO said, no, we're not paying for that. Like, it's going to take the broadcasters to kind of step in and say, hey, you know what? No, we ain't paying for that. We ain't paying for that. Let's look at some of these events. You had Parker versus Wardley. That's not a pay per view.
Definitely not.
Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. That's not a pay per view. I mean,
Nope.
Canelo Alvarez versus William Skull. I mean, Canelo
huh.
Alvarez is a superstar, but I mean,
But that's not a pay per view.
he's fighting William Skull, man. So that's not a pay per view. Devin Haney versus Ramirez,
Oh,
and Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. That was free, I think, wasn't it? Or was that was free, wasn't it? Or was that pay per
Nope,
view?
that was
Pay-per-view.
part of the pay per view. They had the bundle
All
with the
right.
Canelo package.
Okay, yeah.
that's
So that's
right.
that. See, none of these fights are the only fight that I would have actually paid pay per view for that I think was worthy was Canelo Crawford. That was the only legitimate pay per view fight this year, in my opinion. Right?
Here's the other thing though, guys. Like they'll put some pay-per-views that really are based on the strength of the main event. Canelo Skull, great example. And it's not even a pay-per-view. And so I feel like in today's environment, the things that I would be more willing to pay for is a card that is more top to bottom balanced than just trying to pay for the main event. Like that's where I have the hardest time dishing out my $80 on a main event that's not really a pay-per-view and the rest of the cards like questionable. Like for example, and I know people are going to maybe freak out when I say this, but say for example the upcoming PBC card which is shaped up into a nice little card with 3 or 4 decent fights on it. I don't want to pay for that. I don't feel that's really pay per view either. But I would rather pay for something like that with a bunch of interesting fights versus that one main event and a bunch of other stuff you're not interested in, basically.
Well, I mean, again, you have to almost lower your standards a little bit. Like, for instance, Alexander Usyk versus Daniel Dubois 2. You could argue that may have been a pay per view fight, but again, no, I hate to say this, but nobody really knows Usyk in America, and no one knows Dubois in America. So again, these are not. And I hate to sound xenophobic, but if you want to grab the whole market, like when Lennox Lewis came over here, he became a global star because he fought Holyfield, he fought Tyson, he fought Shannon Briggs, he fought a lot of guys, Ray Mercer. So you know, I would want to even say that could possibly be pay per view, but that's not a casual fans fight. If you're going to put something on pay per view, you got to try to reach more than just the hardcores. Now that could be a pay per view for hardcores, but that's not a pay per view for casuals. You know?
I
one
wanted
Hundred
to share
percent.
something because I think we've been conditioned, but and it's working to some degree because the Pitbull Lamont, the Laura and Yanni Beck and Oshaki and Cool Boy, I'm all for that paying for that pay per view.
Yeah, that
But
was
at
not.
one point in time in my existence, that was a card that I might would get that wouldn't be a pay per view card.
Yeah.
I,
I mean,
I feel that.
let Virtuoso jump in. You want to jump in, Virtuoso?
Sure, man.
Go ahead.
Uh, Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Um, I just want to know, and I know I'm not gonna find the answers here, but before the zone rolled out this new premium plan, right? Did the board of directors even discuss this with the promoters and said like, "Hey, man, this is a quota of pay-per-views that we're trying to meet," because I don't see how you could produce that many at a time when there is no pay-per-view attraction.
Yeah.
Now, Steve Kim was on X yesterday said that HBO produced like less than that, like 8 or 9 shows,
Yeah.
and that was when they had people like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Juan Manuel Marquez, you name it. Those were stars. Now we don't see that. I think the exposure is kind of limited nowadays, And to me, this is not a consumer friendly, sport. It's been that way for a while. I have to include PBC on this because they set the precedent in putting
Yeah,
fights behind a
yeah.
paywall, and they're not even, and the undercards are not even that
80
interesting.
80% of their cards are pay-per-views, and the zone is like they're getting close to them now. They're like 60%, 65, 70% of their cards are pay-per-views. So if you're putting up a paywall for these guys, then you're circumventing the growth process to make these guys pay-per-view stars. If you're already putting them behind a paywall even before they have a following, then
Right,
how are you going to incentivize or encourage people to buy these
right,
pay-per-views, right? I think that's pretty much what you said, but I'm just kind of saying it in a little bit different way.
yeah. So I think back in the '90s and through the 2010s, right? There was a model in which we're trying to establish a network to cable TV to pay per view pipeline, and that thing has been compromised because they're trying to look for a short term solution to a long term problem,
Yeah.
and that is the dwindling support of boxing and the recognition of these stars that they say, "Fuck it, let's put them behind a paywall because we got to get these guys paid."
It's almost like an
But
act of
they're not.
desperation. It's like an act of desperation, really.
It is, and what I kind of like about this new deal that TKO Boxing, oh well, Zuffa Boxing is going to be receiving from Paramount is that they're going to be on terrestrial television, which means they have an opportunity to garner a fan base by watching it for free, and that's how you do it. You're supposed to garner an audience on free TV, see if they're marketable, and then try to put them behind a paywall at some point in the future. But they're not looking to do that. They saying that, well, I think one of the executives at TKO said that pay per view said, well, we see about that. you know
Yeah.
but yeah, I like what they're doing. I think boxing in America is lacking a solid infrastructure in terms of programming. It's always like scattered. It's infrequent. People don't know why, when this fight is happening, or we can only speculate as boxing fans. So it's really janky, and it's like you see why UFC is getting the money because they're a controlled entity. It is self-contained. These networks have shown time and time again with the NBA, the NFL, with these TV rights deals that they want the whole of it. They don't want a part of. Now, I recommended an idea. I know it's gonna sound crazy, but with all the sanctioning bodies, right, that have been complaining about Zuffa Boxing becoming a UBO, well, since they do business in the U.S., all four, the big four of them, right? What is stopping them from using that exact same law to become a UBO themselves, like have a promotional division of themselves? Because look, all these TV rights deals are with three-letter words: NFL, NBA, MLB. Why not WBC? Why not WBA? Discuss this, like get together. That way you can have people invested in the brand. You know what I mean? Get the TV rights deal so that these fighters don't have to complain about they're not getting paid enough and all that stuff. Oh, I need to be in pay-per-view. Because this thing is not leading us to come back to boxing. No, it's separating people from like the rest of society. It feels like alienating to be a boxing fan. To be honest with
You got a point, Virtual. So you know one thing I wanted to point out too.
you, yeah,
Um, Another part of the issue is we know that the fighters want to make a certain amount of money, right? And you got these terrestrial networks, but the problem with it is when we're looking at other sports, they have a calendar, a schedule,
yes,
something solidified and concrete. With boxing, sometimes it's day to day, week to week, month to month, because you never know what matches are made and what's created. So that unknown does
it's always a fluid
handicap the sport
situation.
itself from being able to utilize the terrestrial networks in the same form and fashion as other sports. And that's the conundrum that boxing's dealing with. Then you almost doing, GoFundMe boxing because fighters want to get paid a certain amount to
Right.
fight any type of fight. So it really puts the promoters in a tough spot. So They're not all of the blame. I mean, they take a brunt of it, but
Yeah.
fighters are responsible, fans are responsible. I think as a whole, we're all responsible. In regards to the sport itself.
If you remember back in the HBO and Showtime days, they would give you like a 6 to 8 month schedule right out the gate because
Hmm.
they could get these fights pretty much signed and agreed to. It wasn't hard to make fights back then, but
Yeah.
now it's like you got to wait till the 13th hour to decide who's going to be the opponent. Like for instance, you got Shakur and you got Tio. How long are you going to negotiate this thing? Is it really that hard to put this together? You know what I'm saying? Like it seems like there's some issues on both sides. Maybe this guy wants this guy wants that. Maybe both of them are haggling over money, which is fine. They could do whatever they want. But again, this is where the broadcaster has to come in and say, this is what it is. Take it or leave it. And we're not going to give you another. We're not giving you a freebie. This is the fight we want, which is what HBO used to do back in the day. This is the fight we want. Take it or leave it. You're not getting another fight. You want another fight? We're not going to broadcast it. So these broadcasters got to put their foot down. They can't just give the promoters, a piggy bank, give them a budget for the year, and not step in and say, hey, no, we're not going to buy that fight. We don't want to put that fight on, because it seems like a lot of like Eddie Hearn kind of pretty much gets the the run of the run of the place over there. Like if he wants to put a fight on, he puts a fight on. It doesn't seem like the zone's giving these promoters much pushback, right?
Hmm.
I mean, look what they just showed. That fight, Boots Ennis versus Lima, that never would have been on HBO. Never. They wouldn't have accepted that fight for him. They would have turned that fight down. So
Yeah, they would have wanted him to fight Virgil, but there's a thing, Beebs, is that you have fighters today that are just unwilling to go the extra step. You
yeah,
know, I'm sorry, but
because they've been
that
incentivized to do less.
exactly, exactly.
That's the thing. So
Yes.
unless these broadcasters step in and say, no, this is the fight we want. If you don't give us this fight, then you're not getting a fight here. But again, these promoters have become managers, because back in the day, you would sign, a promoter would have a guy for like one or two fights. Okay, yeah, you fight the champion, and then you give me I have options on your next fight. Maybe 2 fights, 3 fights. When you're signing a guy to a 6 fight, 8 fight deal, essentially as a promoter, you're becoming a manager, because in order for you to get the benefit of that long term deal, you got to keep them undefeated. You got to keep them winning. So now you're going to match them softly now. So these promoters have turned into managers, right?
Right.
They're
There's
not.
a
They're
cross
not.
pollination of jobs here. You
Yeah, and,
know.
and and that's why I laugh with this whole fucking Aliak bullshit, because it's come on, man. Let's call it for what it is. These managers have been acting like promoters, and these promoters have been acting like managers and advisors for years.
Hmm.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. You've made so many great posts on that
Yeah,
because
I don't even want to argue about that, because here's the
yeah,
thing too. Here's the thing too, and I hate to go off on a tangent, but keep this in mind, because I read the Ali Act and I read those two statutes, and there's nothing that says, right, that like a promoter can't create a sanctioning body. What it does say is a promoter can't take money from a sanctioning body. That's what it says. That's the conflict of interest. Now, even still, TKO is not a sanctioning body because they're not taking sanctioning fees. It doesn't say you can't create a league. It doesn't say you can't do what TKO is doing. And here's the kicker. They already have an event scheduled in January. They're ready to kick off in January. That that amendment to the act will not be passed by then. So they're going to operate without that amendment. They already
Hmm.
got their rights deal without that amendment. So they didn't really need it. Well, so why did they get it? I just think they got it because TKO is a publicly traded company, and they don't want to deal with the bullshit from these other promoters who are going to try and sue them. Because when Al Heyman wanted to do the same exact thing, what happened? Right out the gate, he got sued by two promoters. Of course, he's going to win. But when you're a publicly traded company, you don't want to be dealing with negative publicity like that. You don't want to be dealing with lawsuits. And everyone talks about the UFC. The UFC didn't pay that lawsuit out. TKO paid out that lawsuit. Dana White's an employee. He's an employee of TKO now. That's a publicly
Yes.
traded company. You know, Ari Emanuel is his boss. Mark Shapiro is his boss. He can get fired tomorrow if they go before the board and they vote to get rid of him. So everyone's like looking at like the whole Muhammad Ali Act amendment was from what I hear was Ari Emanuel's idea. So Jean Zattel is asking the wrong guy the question. You need to talk to Ari Emanuel. That's Dana's boss. That's Dana's boss. So this whole thing about Dana this, Dana that, of course Dana is a high-powered CEO. He's a
But
high-powered
he's a figurehead.
Of course he has a lot of power and influence, but
Right.
again, he's a minority shareholder. Okay? Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro are the two bosses over there. They call the shots. That was Ari Emanuel's idea, from what I understand. I don't want to go on record saying that, but from what I hear, that was his idea, that Ali Act. So this whole thing, and then Sean Zattel asks him a question. Oh, well, they're having a hearing at the State Athletic Commission in California. What are you going to do if they don't? That's it. Doesn't matter if they endorse it or not. It's a federal law. Fucking federal law trumps state law. They don't have to endorse shit. If Congress supports it, it was put forth in Congress, presented in Congress, it has bipartisan support. Democrats.
He's good with the gotcha questions, but like, does he know that the government is right now is experiencing a shutdown, and
Yeah,
that further,
they are going to
yeah,
operate without that amendment in place.
yeah,
So
they haven't even Congress hasn't even deliberated on it.
Yeah, they're gonna what law are what are they breaking? What part of the Ali Act are they breaking? Where did I pulled up the statute and everything. I could read it to you. There's nothing that says that they can't have their own organization. They can't have their own belt. There's nothing in there that says that.
I think it's perfect timing for me to say this. There was only one issue that someone posed to me, and it made me think this could be an issue. You tell me if this is even possible,
run it by me,
or something that can come down the pipe.
Yep.
The one issue is, let's say after you've done, let's say you sign to Zuffa for 2 years, right? And you fight your fights every 3 months. You fight 4 fights a year, and you win all 4 of your fights the first year. Second year, you win 2. You become a champion in the third. Then you fight the 4th one.
Yeah.
From what I heard, now I don't know if this is a fact, that after that 2-year contract, let's say for instance, if you don't automatically renew, or if it has an automatic renew kicker, that there's like a non-compete for a year. That means you couldn't be able to go continue to fight under the regular boxing rules and regulations for a certain time frame. And I would have a problem with that if that's something that's contractually set up within that company.
I have not heard that. Yeah, I haven't heard that. And I
heard something like that, but again, I don't know if that would be factual. We have no idea. I'm just saying that would be a potential issue.
Yeah, I'm also hearing that they're in violation of the Ali Act because they have their own title belt. Show me where it says in the Ali Act you can't have your own title belt. It doesn't say it. So
PBC was about to come out with a title belt. I remember you should.
Yeah. They were about to have their own. PBC.
If AJ had lost to Ruiz.
Here's the thing, man. If every promoter, right, had the backing of a company with the market cap value of $40 billion, then they would be doing the same thing. Al Heyman tried to do it. If Eddie Hearn was all these guys would love to do what Dana White's going to be able to do right now. They would love to not have to deal with the sanctioning bodies. They would love it, but they don't have the money behind them to do it. And here's the thing too, like Turki Al-Sheikh is the one that's funding this. Like he spearheaded this. So Dana, like why isn't anyone asking Turki Al-Sheikh questions? Why didn't Sean Zattel ask Turki Al-Sheikh, why are you funding this? You know what I'm saying? This is just a political thing because Dana White's friends with Trump, and these people don't like Trump, which is fine. They don't have to like anyone. I don't give a fuck who they like. But don't bring your politics into the sport because you didn't give a shit when Al Heyman did it.
No, they didn't. They're very hypocritical.
This is
and they're basically advocating for like the 1% of boxers to get paid.
Very handsome. That's all they're doing. You're think about this. Okay, I'm a boxer. and I want to invoke the Ali Act. Contract law is contract law. If I have a problem with my promoter, I can file a case with the state superior court. I don't have to go before a federal district court judge. Okay, but I want that so-called leverage, like Chris Algieri. Chris Algieri literally said this. He goes like this. He goes, yeah, the Ali Act didn't help me, but it gave me leverage, gave me a leg to stand on. So I replied to him. I said, well, how much leverage did you really have, and what leg to stand on did you have if it didn't help you? Like, again, this is just it's just all fluff. Because if you want to invoke the Ali Act, like Mikey Garcia, he invoked the Ali Act. He had to sit out for 2 years because you know how long it takes for a case to get heard before a federal district court judge? Anywhere from 2 to 3 years. So if you're Isuma Lima and you want to invoke the Ali Act against a promoter, can you afford to sit out 2 years before your case is heard? Can you even afford the legal fees it's going to cost you to fight that promoter? So again, if you are not Mikey Garcia, you cannot invoke the Ali Act, right? And be able to go through with the process. You don't have the resources and the time and the money to do it. So it's bullshit. And then Austin Trout invoked the Ali Act, I guess because he was saying that he was supposed to fight someone from the WBO. I think it was Liam Smith or whatever, and the WBO took him out of the rankings. So then they put him back in the rankings. They didn't even, it wasn't even a federal district court judgment. It was just they settled, and the WBO said, okay, we'll put you back in the rankings at number 1. You know what they turned around and did? They gave him 48 hours to agree to a deal with Liam Smith, which was an impossible task that he could not achieve. So he didn't end up fighting for the title. So again, like if everything's going to be a settlement and there's never going to be a judge rendering a fucking judgment, then what are we really doing here? It's
Circling the wagon.
It's a fucking joke, bro. It's a joke. It's not. Again, I'm not here to bash it, but I'm just stating facts. Every time this act has been invoked, there's either been a settlement or the case has been thrown out. And the biggest case of all was the case against Al Heyman, and he settled with Bob Arum. I don't even know what the fucking settlement was. It hasn't been disclosed. And the one with De La Hoya got thrown out. So again, this helps the 1% because no one else is going to be able to invoke this and have the resources and time to actually go through a case. Contract law is contract law. When those fighters did a class action against the UFC, they didn't need the Ali Act to get their money. If they used the Ali Act,
good point.
If they used the Ali Act, guess what? It would have taken them longer. And you know that case was going on for about close to 11 years. But then when TKO, they had the merger with UFC and WWE, and they fell under the TKO umbrella. TKO said, you know what? We don't want to. We had a market cap value of $40 billion. We'll throw these guys whatever. They're like these fucking couple $1 million. We don't. Fuck do they care? Let's get rid of this. Let's pay them out. Mm-hmm. Right. So again, this is not. Everyone's like, oh, well, they're going to screw the fighters over with pay. They're a publicly traded company. Okay, this is not the Fertitta brothers. The Fertitta brothers had a long history in Vegas of being union busters. They've had issues with employees in their casinos for the longest time. In Las Vegas, a lot of those casinos are union, but the Fertitta brothers, they were like one of the few that were not union, and they would do everything they could in their power to bust unions, and that's them. They're gone now. This is a whole new atmosphere. You're dealing with a market cap value of $40 billion. The UFC on its own is worth close to $12 billion. WWE is worth $6 billion. This is not what it was 10, 15 years ago. This is a different animal right now. It's a different fucking animal. I'm not caping for anyone, but I'm an investor. I look at companies, and if I was to invest in a company and I had a choice to invest in TKO or invest in fucking DAZN, DAZN hasn't turned a profit since its existence. It's just lucky that it has a lot of It's a value company.
They looking for long term. They got people who got big money that's putting in it for the long haul, long stay.
They're looking to get their return later. and people have been willing to put the money up front to get the return later. But here's the thing: we're 7 years in, and they still haven't turned a profit. They're not going in the right direction. But it doesn't matter because people will keep funding it. People will keep investing in it. People will keep funding it. That guy, Len Blavadovic, he's a fucking billionaire, that guy.
So Beeb, as an investment, is DAZN similar to the Boston Seaport or what?
Pretty much.
You like
Pretty
that?
Yeah. Well, when you're dealing with growth companies, right? You're not dealing with profitable companies right out the gate.
No, and they've had time to. I mean, I just remember the message and the messaging when DAZN first came on the scene, and it was exciting. And I would say most hardcore fans, we bought into it and we embraced it and supported it, and it didn't deliver. So that we can't forget that. Like, we were told it was the end of pay-per-view, it was the end of this and that. And let's be honest, they mismanaged it. They overpromised things that they couldn't deliver on. And I feel like fans at this point have a right to be kind of annoyed with the zone, to be honest. And they keep asking for, you know what I'm saying, though? Yeah. There you go.
You know what the zone problem was from the boxing side? And this is where the domino effects happen. They overpaid to get into the game, right? And unfortunately, over the last, what are we going to say, 10 to 15 years in the sport of boxing, outfits are overpaying to get into the game, which has inflated the market.
That's like what PBC did.
Yeah. It's been an overinflation of the market.
Al Heyman's a genius. He's great. He's great at getting people to invest. He's great at using other people's money. I have no animus towards Al Heyman as a businessman. I don't like the product he's given me, but the man's a genius. I don't have anything negative to say about the guy in terms of his, person.
To me, all promoters are birds of a feather, man. And people that try and put a single promoter up on a pedestal above the others, that they're somehow more ethical or more caring of their fighters, or I've never seen it like that. They're all the same. They all have the same interests. They all want the same things. And all they really do is use the media to try and cast shade on each other. And, because it's a brand and it's a business, and they want eyes on their product. I mean, DAZN. It's funny. People are mad about Turki Al Sheikh being this, having access to all this money and bringing all this money to the sport to do the things he wants to do. But it wasn't that long ago with DAZN. They got bailed out to the tune of, I'm pretty sure it was about $4 billion. Am I right about that, Beeb? I forget the name of the. There was like an angel investor who came in because DAZN was in the absolute shitter, and they invested a ton of money into DAZN to keep it afloat, to keep it moving forward.
There are people that keep investing in DAZN because they think look what Turki Al Sheikh just jumped in.
He got 13% stake now.
Yeah, so like people.
I got an argument with somebody about that.
They keep getting investors. All the power to them. But at some point, the investors are gonna take a look and say, where's our return? And who knows? Here's the thing too with Turki Al Sheikh's not even using his own money. He's using the PIF's money. He's using sellers' money. So what is Turki Al Sheikh really? What is he really?
He's not using none of his own money.
When you're not using your own money, you don't give a fuck.
That's investing 101. Don't pay with your own money.
Yeah, these guys aren't using their own money, so they don't care. They don't care. And the whole thing with this, I'm listening to Ariel. I hate to go off topic here, but listen to Ariel Helwani talk about this whole Jake Paul, Tank Davis thing, and saying, "Oh, well, the live gate doesn't mean anything; it's the rights fee." Yeah, but here's the thing: the live gate is an indicator of how much attention is behind the fight. So if there's no buzz behind the fight, no one's buying tickets, right? Then who knows what's going on behind the scenes too? Like Netflix is looking at this negative incident just happening recently. They're saying, well, what? Who knows if advertisers are going to pull back, sponsors are going to pull back, and who knows if people aren't buying tickets, then how many people are really going to watch the thing in the first place? Name an event that tanked at the box office in terms of ticket sales that got great viewership or great pay-per-view numbers. I
I'll
can't.
wait. I
I
I
hope
can't
if
can't.
tell you.
anybody can tell
I really
me,
cannot tell
chat,
you.
wherever, please tell me.
So
And I predicted, I got somebody that, I think they still gonna owe me push-ups, even though, no, I don't know, because the bet was that, 50 push-ups, that it wouldn't do better numbers than Canelo Crawford, because I just
I
felt
don't think it
like
would have.
I didn't think it was gonna do it. I called it the
No.
staying event, not the main
Brim,
event, the staying
Brim,
event.
Brim. I'm gonna be honest with you. Call me an idiot. Call me crazy. Call me whatever you want. It's almost as if someone paid Javante Davis to sabotage this event. Like I've never seen someone go to press conferences like that, like and just literally sabotage the event. He literally like, oh, this ain't even a real. Like he's trashing the event, and he's being gonna be part of it. And then at one point he shut down his Twitter and he shut down his Instagram. Like he wasn't promoting the event. I just
No.
don't think this was gonna get the buzz that everyone thought it was gonna get. And I think Netflix realized that. Because think about it. Look at Floyd Mayweather back in 2012. This guy had domestic violence cases 2002, 2004, 2005, 2006. And then in 2012 the guy actually gets convicted and they still let him fight, even though he was convicted of the crime and he was going to get sentenced a month later. And the Las Vegas Commission still sanctioned the fight. Why? Because of the money. So
The
if this,
money was coming in regardless, and the money
yeah,
wasn't coming in on this fight.
so I don't care how much of a rights fee Netflix was paying. Jake Paul takes that rights fee money. He has to pay himself. He has to pay Tank Davis. He has to pay the undercard. He has to pay the commission, the fees. He has to pay operation costs. And then Netflix, they want eyeballs. And if they feel like they're not going to get the eyeballs, if they feel like the advertisers are going to pull back, if they feel like the sponsors are going to pull back, if they feel like they're another publicly traded company, they don't want to deal with the negative publicity. But they would. But there's an old saying. There was an old saying in the retail industry: sales heal all wounds. And in this case, viewership and advertisement and sponsorship heal all wounds. And I believe, based on those live ticket sales, that this event was going in the wrong direction and it was not going to meet expectations. I think it was going to go way under expectations. They see
I agree.
metrics, they can look at the writing on the wall, and they pulled out. And this incident was just the straw that broke the camel's back. It was just enough where they could say, "Hey, we got an out now. Let's
We
bail
can
on
cut our
this.
losses.
Let's bail on this fucking thing." You know?
Yeah, because I don't even think it was. I was predicting like 30 million, right?
Yeah.
As it was getting closer, I'm thinking, man, this might not do 25
No, no. And you got
because
to
it's a
understand.
circus, And
And
I
you,
live close to where Barnum and Bailey started. It started
yeah,
in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If I want to
yeah.
go see a circus, I'll stop by around that way.
And here's the thing, Brim. You could say, "Wow, 25 million. That's a lot of people." Not really when you got 300,000 subscribers,
You
right?
mean 300 million? Yeah.
300 million. I'm sorry, 300 million. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, when you got 300 million subscribers and you get like 25,000 viewers, that's not a lot. Not for a mailboxing. I mean, we didn't
Nah,
care.
you want to at least get 10%.
Yeah, yeah. You want at least like 30. You want at least like 30 million viewers, right? Maybe
Yeah,
30.
on that scale for that amount of money. Like
Yeah,
for the ladies, them doing 7 was phenomenal because the amount
yeah,
of money they cost to do the event in
yeah.
general. But for
I mean,
these type of events where you're paying guys, 20, 30, some odd million, yeah,
they
those metrics are very important.
they were saying Tank was getting like 20 million, I guess. Jake
I don't
Paul.
know. I didn't care enough to
Yeah, I
know
didn't
how
care
much
what he
he
was
actually was
getting.
really
But
getting.
think about this. So if Javante's getting 20 million, and I don't know if Javante's getting 20, what is Jake Paul has to pay himself. So Jake Paul's going to get whatever he feels like taking out of the rights fee. So Jake Paul is sitting there saying to himself, "Damn man, is this going to be worth it if this live gate tanks? Because the promoter likes to, recoup some of those operation costs from the live gate.
Yeah, the
And
live gate takes care of a good piece of that if it
yeah,
does well.
yeah. So
Hey
if
guys,
go ahead, man.
like people are not people like fans, pundits. I hear it said a lot that casual fans is really what drives the money, and ultimately, the biggest events, pay-per-views, and I agree with that to a big extent. But you can't discount what hardcore fans do for everything. And I feel like I heard everyone say, "I don't care. I didn't care." Like, but we really didn't care. Like, as hardcore fans, as soon as this fight was announced, we knew what it was, we knew what it wasn't, and yeah, like, it's just we didn't care. So we're not out there on the social media. We're not out there putting the word out. Like, I feel like word of mouth from hardcore fans through social media and other methods is a big part of it, and it gives credibility to the fight. Whether that matters to promoters or not, whether that matters to casuals or not, it's out there. It's an energy that matters. It's part of it. And I feel like hardcore fans did not support this, and that's
No.
part of the reason the whole thing tanked.
Well,
You know what? You got a good point there because you think about it. What is the oh Papa? What is the fight that's most talked about right now?
what fights
I would
being?
say, sorry, but with the ring event coming up, I feel like Haney Norman's been getting the most buzz in the last few
Bingo.
months.
And you know why
Right.
it's getting the most talk? Because the boxing fans are going kibbles and bits, and I'm one of those fans.
I like the card. I like the card. I
The
like.
card is phenomenal.
That's a good
But the
card.
Haney and my brother Norman, that is hogging other airways, and
Yep.
that's what can create those viral moments where the casuals pay attention, and then it changes the dynamics. So
And
we are in some ways a bridge to the casual. So you enough of the main of us in the main of
we're
the
there to spread
boxing
the word.
fans.
We're supposed to spread the word to the casual. Like when
Exactly,
I
and
would
then if
tell,
it hits a certain casual, then it turns into a spark fire, and
yeah,
then everything goes on, and then you start getting a whole lot more eyeballs.
I told my whole office to watch Canelo Crawford, and they did, and they did.
Yeah,
They wouldn't have watched it if I didn't tell them to watch it.
there it is right there, Beeb. See, you're the guy in the office that's the boxing guy. And
Yeah.
so I'm the same way at my workplace, and I'm sure most of us are that guy in our lives. So anytime there's a fight big enough to get casuals' eyes, for example, Jake Paul. So Jake Paul and Tyson, I can't tell you how many people came up to me just to gauge my reaction and opinion on it. They'd ask me, "What do you think? Who do you think's going to win?" Hardcore fans matter in the push and
Yeah.
promotion of these fights. It definitely does matter. It's only part of it, but it's a part.
Yeah.
Yes, it actually can help set the tone for it or spark the fire. Yeah,
Yeah, that fight did a lot for Crawford, man. It really did. And I'm going to say something. I was actually, it's gonna sound corny, but I was so proud that Monday when I walked in because I'm listening to people talk about the fight, and these are casual fans, and I've never heard these adjectives being used by casual fans. They're like, "Wow, that guy Crawford, he's really crafty, skillful guy. Wow, he's really a skilled." Like you never hear people say like
yeah, because
casual.
they think of Rock'em Sock'em Robot in the
Yeah,
casual where
they
you
were
want to
like,
see just knockouts, a great punch. For them appreciating those idiosyncrasies of the
yeah,
craft.
you
Yeah,
could see like how he was creating those openings and just the little subtle moves and the feints and the way he was moving his hands around to create openings. Like people were like, "Wow, that guy is really, really skilled, man. He's really crafty. He's really tricky." People like you never hear casual fans say that, and I was so happy to hear that, like, because that like they really appreciated the sport for just
the sport because it
being a
wasn't a
sport.
knockout fight. I mean, it wasn't high octane. It was a chess match with some moments of good
Yeah,
infighting.
those
Yeah,
last two rounds, too, and you got to give Crawford credit too, man. Like he closed the show in those last two rounds. Imagine that he needed to win those last two rounds
he
to
did
win
based
the
on the
fight,
scorecards. He had to
just
go
to
in for
win the
real.
fight. and he didn't leave nothing to chance. He didn't do what Loma did against Haney and take the last round off because he could have because it would have been a draw or he could have lost. You know what I'm saying? Like so he finished. He gave us a little bit of everything in that fight. Like he was
Yes.
boxing, counter punching. He was so great defense. He stood in the pocket. He traded. Man, I was so
You
happy
want
for
to know
him.
a hot take?
What's that?
Haney has to do his version of that to beat Norman.
100%.
He has to do
100.
his version of Crawford. The things that he do best. See, what Bud did was everything that he has done in his career, put it together in that fight. That's what Haney has to do against Norman to
Yeah,
win the fight. He has to
yeah,
put it all together, do a little bit of everything well.
yeah. That's true, man. Like he did show a different wrinkle in that Lomachenko fight. I got to give him credit for that. Like he did stand in the. People think Lomachenko got robbed there, but
I won't say Rob. I had Loma winning, but the
I,
fact was to me that I didn't care because the fight was that good. Both guys had
yeah,
to do things
I
they hadn't done in their career, and
yeah,
Haney showed a lot of moxie and
yeah,
in the ring of being able to recover from
yeah.
situations, and he was going to the body pretty hard. So it didn't. I didn't care when at the end of it all. Like, okay, I might have thought Haney lost, but he got the win. I'm not going to discredit it because there was both guys went in, and it was an excellent fight. This is one of those
I'm
fights I like
glad.
to go
I'm
back
glad
and
to hear.
watch.
I'm glad to hear someone say it like that because I thought Haney edged it, 115 to 113, and all I got people were giving me such grief. Give me
I probably would have gave you grief at the first
okay,
day.
okay.
I would have gave you grief the first day, but like a week later, I probably was calm.
And you know
You
what?
know,
And you know what? There's times when I'm in the minority opinion, and I just say, hey, you know what? I had it this way, but
we here,
yeah,
yeah. And
sometimes
people was coming at me, oh, like you hate Haney. I'm like, bro, I picked Haney. I made
yep,
money on this fight.
yep,
I watched the fight at work with no sound. I
yep.
thought Loma won the fight.
And then you know what else
It
got
is
me
what
pissed?
it is.
You know what else got me pissed off, Brim? After Ryan Garcia, I thought he won. He won, but obviously what happened, right? And then everyone's like, oh well, he cheated because even before he failed the drug test, right? Oh, he cheated because he was over the weight limit, blah blah blah. Bro, the line did not move after that weigh-in. Like people were still saying that he was going to get his ass kicked, even though he was over the weight limit a couple pounds. Now, whether or not that meant something, that's fine. But nobody changed their pick. And then the same people that didn't change their pick before the fight, they're like, oh well, he won because he cheated because he was over the weight limit, blah blah blah. It wasn't fair, blah blah. But no one was saying that before the fight. They were still saying, and Devin Haney, he was like laughing because he's like, damn, yeah, I'm gonna get paid now. He was over a couple pounds. He was actually
Yeah.
laughing at the after he found that out.
This
No,
might be hindsight 2020, what I'm about to tell you. And
all
I
right,
think it might be fair to say what I said first,
all right,
hindsight 2020.
all
But
right,
when you take a step back and look at the overall landscape of how that played out,
sure.
what even though yeah he got money for it, but what Ryan did was true weight bullying. If you, because to me, if you make the weight, you make the weight. But
Mhm.
that's true weight bullying. And yeah, got paid for that. Haney and them did. But with that true weight bullying mixed in with him coming positive and then him disrespecting the process during that left me with a complete sour taste of
Of
Ryan
course.
Garcia, where I did have some issues with people going at Haney as hard as they did in comparison to the person
Yep.
who actually disrespected the process of the sport
Well,
and
he
all
didn't
things
go
that
through the
came with it.
pain. He didn't go through the same pain that Haney had to go through. He took a shortcut, right? So Haney.
It took multiple shortcuts, but then at the end of it all, Haney got bashed more than Ryan did.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have my take, and again, sometimes I'm in the minority with my opinion. I understand he failed the drug test. You got to deal
But
with the
that ain't the only reason why that ain't the only reason why Haney was getting hit on. I
yeah.
personally think Haney, because of the history they had through the 3-3
Well,
amateur,
they knew
he
each other.
fought
Yeah, they knew each other.
emotionally and
That's a bad
outside of
style.
his normal
That's a bad style
normal
for
self.
Haney. Haney has problems with that style. Yeah, I, I I don't think the Austrian really meant that. I actually believe him that he did take it not knowingly, but I do think you still have to get punished for it.
You
You
know
know?
the problem. I would roll with you on that if he conducted himself in the
Yeah,
way that I would
he
have
didn't do himself
expected
any
him to
justice.
conduct himself
Yeah.
during the process of after he tested positive.
Yeah, I'm
The
not
way
going to give
he
him any grace. I'm not going to. Normally, I would give. Like I actually gave Connor Ben a little grace because once again, when you have those trace amounts, I kind of know a little bit. I'm not saying I'm a guru, but I know a little bit about these drugs, the orals. You can't microdose the orals. You microdose the injectables. If you're taking 400
there's no
cc's,
cycling off of that.
you cycle with those oral. That's the thing. If you cycle off those things, right?
Hmm.
You wouldn't have anything in your system. So if you were to do a cycle of that, you wouldn't be taking it the week of the fight because you have once you go through the cycle, you need a week to kind of let your body
So you
normalize.
need to finish that up like 3 weeks before a fight.
At least a week before the fight. So I
Okay.
think he may have drunk something because that ostarine, it's known to be a contaminant in a lot of supplements. If you go to the USADA website, there's a warning on it about make sure you check your supplements can be contaminated or whatever. There's a because here's the thing: when you have a trace amount of an oral substance in your body, to go on a cycle, you're supposed to take a specific dose to have that drug have the proper efficacy that you would want out of it. So no one's gonna. That's the whole thing of microdosing. Like people don't understand what that means. Microdosing is when you're doing EPO and you're shooting half the dosage. You're splitting the dosage up into 4 days instead of doing it into one or two. That's what
Gotcha.
microdosing is.
Yeah, it means you're just breaking up one shot into
You're
2 or 3
you're just
days,
breaking
so
up
you can get the
doses.
effect, but you have a lower amount in your system, so you can
Yeah,
try to skate under the
you're
radar.
taking fast-acting testosterone, right? Which is going to be out of your system in maybe a day or two. And if you're taking like 100 cc 4 times a week instead of going 2 and 2, then you could cycle it out. That's microdosing. Microdosing isn't chopping up a fucking tablet into fucking
Yeah,
dust
it's
and then
yeah. You can. There's
sprinkling.
certain drugs that you might go positive with that doesn't have a
Yeah,
microdosing regimen, basically.
yeah. So that's the thing. Like if you're taking an oral substance and you have a like a trace amount in your system from that oral substance, more than likely, like it got into a supplement or something, man. You know, that's just my opinion based on my studying and knowledge of these drugs. You know what I
I
mean?
want to ask you this question then,
Go ahead.
because this is something that I think us as hardcores are probably split. The percentage of fighters that are actually actively cheating to be in the
At the
position to
top
have the
level,
advantage to win.
top level 75, 75%,
Mm,
my opinion.
mm,
Yep, yep. They
mm.
have the technology is so great, and here's the thing too, man. Um, I don't like to talk about people when they're gone. May he rest in peace. But Victor Conti, I'm not so sure that you know he wasn't. He has his supplements were legal and stuff, but some of that stuff you could argue was just as potent as some of the PEDs. Number one, and number two, some of
Legal
that.
potency is what you're saying. Legal
Yeah,
potency,
yeah, yeah. Like just because something's illegal doesn't mean it's really effective, right?
and just because it's legal, don't mean it don't have the same effects of something that is considered illegal,
Yeah, like
right?
yeah, yeah. Because if there's certain things you can take that like will give you a lot of benefit, a lot of benefit.
You know how I always felt about Victor Conte, rest in peace. That after he got busted, and there's a lot of people came at me about this because he didn't get busted for that. But once you get busted, it's like what's the movie Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah, I saw that. Yep,
You know how he was doing the bank forger, and then when he got caught, he ended up working for them and doing stuff for them.
yep, 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 yep,
I
yep.
looked at Victor Conti as that he gave up his trade secrets for, in part to be able to do what he was doing in boxing. And I thought that if he was really doing that in boxing, I think the lampshade heat would be too heavy for him to get away with it because they would just circle the wagons and come back at him again. That's how I felt about his stint in boxing. Even though I understand the legitimate concerns of him, I just felt like the spotlight would be too hot for him to try to play that game again. He has to
Yep.
play it the other way.
Sure, absolutely. And people say like I used to criticize him and say he didn't have remorse and this and that. But here's the thing: I do think he had remorse, but I think he had remorse for a different reason. Like obviously he got caught, and when you get caught, you change your mentality.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that, and I heard him say this before, and he actually cried on that there was a moment in that documentary where he was talking about his daughter and his family, and I think it really bothered him that his family had to go through that with him. Like that, it's almost like he felt like he brought shame to his family. Like
Yeah, like
you don't want
they
your
his
kids.
family paid for his actions.
Yeah, you don't want your family to. Yeah, your family has to have to pay for your actions. That's number one, and you also don't want your family to feel ashamed of you because you did something like that too. That has an effect on you too, I would imagine, right? If you're a dad and your daughter or your son sees you go through something like that, and it's like you don't want to set that bad example for your kids. And
Yeah,
I,
like man, I'm just showing you how to have bad judgment. It's a little
yeah,
bit, it's some shame with
yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
definitely some shame
How am
coupled
I
with
going to turn around and tell you not to do something bad when I turn around and I went to jail? You know what I'm saying? And I think as a parent that hurts. It would hurt somebody because they're worried about how their kid perceives them, right? So I do think there was remorse. I do think there was remorse.
Yeah, that's why I kind of looked at it like, oh, everybody was, hooping and hollering about him cheating. And I got a feeling it was probably the opposite. I just think the spotlight was too hot for him to be able to do that
Yeah,
again and
yeah,
do that with impunity.
that's right. And here's another thing too. Um, I think the federal government was overcharging him too. They were throwing everything with the kitchen sink at him. That's the problem sometimes with the federal government. When they want to get somebody, they get a little overzealous and they overcharge somebody and they throw everything but the kitchen sink. Whereas if you just charge someone with what they did and you're not looking to bury them, like they wanted to bury this guy under the jail. I'm not saying what he did was right, but I mean, how much prison time should he have done for what he did? You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I forgot how much time he did. I can't even
Yeah,
remember,
yeah.
though.
I don't. I think they wanted to put him away for like 20 years or something like that. That was way too
Did
much.
he only do like 2 years or something like
Yeah,
that?
I mean, let me see how much time he
Two,
did.
3 years out of this whole time? I could
Yeah,
be wrong,
let me see how much time he actually
but I'm
did.
sure enough guessing.
Yeah, I'm curious. Oh, he's only he's only sentenced to 4 months. They say he's sentenced to 4 months of house arrest. I thought he went
Oh, that
away.
was it. Somebody, it's interesting. I see somebody in the chat where he said it's too hot for based on me saying I thought it was too hot for him, right? And then where he said he bragged he could do it, he could still do it.
I don't
You
remember.
know, and
I don't know if he said that. Did he say that? I don't know.
maybe he might have said that he has the capability to still do it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Maybe that might have been it. But again,
Yeah, he served
I
four
don't
months.
I don't I don't knock anybody having an issue with him because of his history. I just feel a little bit differently about it just based on the circumstances. I just feel like
Yeah,
that the spotlight is too hot for you to be that bold.
and again, I hate to sound like I'm running interference for the guy, but everybody was at the time when he was helping those athletes. Everyone was doing it, right? Let me look at Lance Armstrong. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone was doing PEDs back then. You know, so that's why I give him a little bit. I give him a little bit of grace, but
Joe, you still there?
yeah, I can still hear you. I think
Okay.
you
Yeah,
want you
he
want.
was Lance was super EPO with that. Then you think about Marion Jones and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know Shane Mosley and
yeah.
do you think Barry Bonds should, I'm just going to just say, do you think Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame?
Yes. Yep.
Absolutely. So is
I vote.
Roger Clemens as well.
Yep, I vote them all in because those
Yep. Kurt Schilling not being in is a travesty too.
yep, those guys were with or without. I'm running a ton of interference today, man. I'm acting like a lawyer. And one thing, who was the guy? Mark McGuire. He said this, and once again, call me naive, call me an idiot. He said this, and I believe him. And this is not to say that I don't think the steroids helped him performance wise, but he said the reason why I took these drugs was to keep myself on the field. So a lot of these guys in baseball, obviously some of them wanted to get the advantage, but a big part of why they took those drugs
The
was
heel, they
because
body break
yeah,
down.
because when they got older, and they were more susceptible to injury. Those steroids helped them heal from the injury. And you could say, "Oh yeah, he got bigger, stronger, whatever." That's great, but they
In a
stayed on.
sport like
They
that, there's a
stayed
certain
on the
amount of
field.
hand-eye coordination that's needed. It
Yeah,
don't got nothing to do with that. And if you
yeah, I
don't
mean,
have that, you don't have that. You can take
yeah,
all the PEDs. You'll just be a two. Instead of you being a 240 hitter with 10 home runs, you'll be a 225 hitter with 30 home runs. So you get a bunch of home runs, but you still stink.
yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of those guys took drugs to help them deal with injuries. That's just my opinion.
Some,
Obviously,
yeah, some. Some did it to get to the top, though.
sure. Like Jose Canseco, I think he took them because he wanted to do better. You know?
Yeah, he was. You know what it was so crazy is he was already good. He said, "I need to be better. I need to be better." He
Yeah,
probably got a little obsessed with
yeah,
it.
yeah. I get a lot of shit on here, man, because I'm always like I'm the other side of the argument when it comes to steroids and stuff, man. Like when it's funny too. If you notice, people don't talk about the PED shit anymore because they realize the whole system was a joke anyways. Because you got VADA out here, um, you know, sending these results to a WADA accredited lab, and they're reporting the results. But it's up to the commission and the sanctioning body if they want to punish the guy or not. So it's like
Yeah.
people started realizing like what good is it that VADA's catching all these people and nothing's really happening to them. So who
Look at
gives?
Jaime. He got cleared completely when nobody even know how that just happened. It just boom, clear.
Yeah, yeah, and then Eddie Hearn. I like Eddie Hearn. Don't get me wrong, but he's sitting there talking shit about Big Baby Miller, and then he got like Dillian White who popped a couple like three of I think it was like at least three times for PEDs. Connor Ben, Billy Joe Saunders is another guy. Like, bro, you promoted and then you got Alicia Bumgarner, like all these fighters you promoted that tested positive, and you're gonna sit there and talk shit about fucking Big Baby Miller. Now I know Big Baby Miller was taking a pharmacy. Don't get me wrong, but Dillian White was, he popped positive for a lot of shit too. You know,
Mm. But you
so
know what? The thing is so crazy is now he look like he about to sign Big Baby Miller.
oh yeah. And here's the thing, man. I like Big Baby Miller, man. I got a kick out of that. We interviewed him one time, and he was
He's
kind of like
entertaining. He's entertaining.
he's a cool dude, man. I like him, man. He's funny. He's funny,
He's
man.
definitely an entertaining fellow. I can't say that he's not.
No, he's a good guy. So who do you like tonight, man? You think Lubin? I think Lubin's got a. I think Ortiz will win, but I think this fight is going to be a lot tougher than people think.
I actually think it's going to be tough. It's going to give you a little bit of Madrimov vibes, just like the first 4 or 5 rounds. Verge ain't got it figured out yet. Lubin's landing some good shots. After 5 rounds, you might be like, "Oh, Lubin's up 3-2. Man, this is a close fight." And then slowly but surely, Verge starts breaking him down. And Lubin makes it and survives the 12th round. He might get knocked down in one of the last 2 rounds. And Verge gets a UD, clean UD.
Let me ask you this: if Virgil wins, are we going to get that boots fight next, or they're
I'm
going to?
not convinced. I don't know, but
I'm
because
not
I'm hearing
convinced
so
either.
many
I'm
different
not
things.
convinced either. I'm not
I'm
convinced.
not convinced, but they're both going to be a little bit cornered to some degree,
Okay.
especially with Xander taking that Baru fight, right? Getting that fight for January 31st, him locking that up. That only leaves you Findor, which we see Verge is not doing nothing because they got the Samsung handshake behind closed doors, not to exercise nothing. And then you have Bakram, which that 10-pound IBF boy. People don't want to deal with that unless they got a title already, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like they're almost forced to fight each other to some degree.
Yeah. They're going to have
The
to fight.
way it's shaping up. Don't mean it's going to play out that way, but it's just shaping up to potentially be that way.
Yeah. Xander Zayas got a nice fight coming up too with that Baru guy. That's going to be a good
Yeah,
fight.
that's what I just said. Yep.
Oh
That's
yeah.
a
Yeah.
unification. So
Yeah.
Xander has now got the trump card in the division low key.
Yeah. He could have some leverage with those two belts, man.
Yeah, and the thing about and the thing is, he's in a very. Even if he loses, if he let's say he beats Baru, right? Even if he loses the next fight after that, it's going to be a good payday, and he's still young to be the moving groove. Because a fight with Virgil, Puerto Rican versus Mexico, fight with Boots. You know, you Black American. You got so any way you slice it, I think it's going to be a good payday for Sander and an opportunity to do something big. You know,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
just want to see. I got to look and see what Fundora is going to do. If is that fight with Thurman going to really go through? And if it does, if he beats Thurman, is he going to move to 160? Because I just got a feeling he's not going to stay at 54. He already kind of showed me to some degree how they move with Xander in the first place. You know, and how you know Virgin, this team has not pressed anything on Fedora, even though he could have and been able to get that fight.
yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I'm a little disappointed with Fondora, man, because he didn't fight none of these champions. But I mean, he fought Tim Zoo, but other than that, who did he fight? You know, I mean, he didn't fight Virgil Ortiz. He didn't fight what's his name? He didn't fight Xander Zayas.
Nope, he put a
He
weight
didn't
clause
fight,
on Xander. That was crazy. In
yeah,
their
he didn't fight.
negotiation, they tried to put a weight clause on Xander.
Yeah, Terrence Crawford wanted to fight him. He didn't want to fight Terrence Crawford. He let himself get stripped of that WBO belt. So I don't know, man. Like, shout out to David, man. He's going over to Saudi. Looks like he's gonna probably try. He's probably gonna fight Better BF next if he beats Yard, which I think he will. I think we'll get that Better BF fight, and I'm glad he's going in the right direction. But some of these other guys, man, I mean, damn, they gotta like what the fuck is Teofimo Lopez doing right now,
Oh,
man?
I heard that I mean, again, when Lance Pugmire or Shava, I feel like they're 85 to 90% when they post something. Outside of last minute, something happened where the deal breaks. When
Yeah,
they really start talking, getting that deep into it, it usually plays out. But I saw a video where T.O. was somewhere and he said, "Yeah, me and Shakur is all set. It's going next." Like he confirmed it. I got a
good,
feeling it's going to happen at this
good,
point. But I
good.
didn't even speak about this fight really for real till like last week.
Yeah, I'm hoping it goes through, man. Because
It looks like it might be official.
yeah, yeah. All right, man. I'm probably gonna head out now, man. Got
I
some
feel
stuff.
you. I'm about to get ready to go head to the store for a hot second before I go to sleep because I've been up. I worked all night. I've been up half the day. Still, I need to get a little bit of rest at some point. But I'm
I
off for the
got you.
next 2 days.
I
But I
got you, man.
appreciate you, man, and you have a
I
blessed one.
appreciate you too, man. Have a good
Indeed.
one, man. I'll
You
catch
too,
up.
champ.
All right, man.